And welcome to What You Gotta Say. It's Wednesday, which means we're going to dive deep into the real Black history with the author of the book, Black History 365, Dr. Walter Milton. And would you believe it? The shooter said that he did it because Black people were going to replace them. Well, history will prove to you that the replacement theory of Black people taking white people jobs is nothing new. But we're going to dive into that right after this break. So, hey, grab a snack because I'm going to see you all in 2 minutes, 2 seconds.
Okay, we're out and on commercial now.
All right. See what you can do. All right. So we'll just come in with the slide. Okay, Doctor, I see you're in.
Okay, so, can you guys go ahead and chat and give me like 2 minutes to change my shirt and hat? I just got in.
Yep, take your time. Go ahead.
Okay,
Take
great.
your time.
All right, thank you.
Sure. Okay, so I'll do the slide alone and then I'll introduce him.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
Now, I noticed when I click the slides, it, for whatever reason, brings up the 1 through 11 box. Do you mind controlling them?
I was going to say you control them because I'm going to read my notes.
Okay, gotcha. I'll control them. It's just on the picture. It's going to say 1 through 11 on the photo.
No problem. I think that's acceptable collateral damage.
Sure.
What do we have in terms of time?
About 30 seconds.
Great. Okay, so you got my notes, so you can follow with the notes. Class of 1870.
Okay.
All
right, going to count you down from 5, stopping at 3, live in 5, 4, 3.
And welcome back. I hope you got a snack and you got your pad and paper. So let's dive into a little bit of Black history on replacement theory. Now, replacement theory is nothing new. Let's start back with the class of 1870. President Lincoln at that particular time had gained a whole group of people by the Emancipation Proclamation, allowing African Americans and former slaves the opportunity of the American dream. Now, because in the early 1800s, I believe it was around 1850, where the white Democrats who were in power because of slavery now had to come to a compromise called the 3/5 ruling. The 3/5 rule is now null and void, which means that Black people will be counted no longer as 3/5 of the population, but a whole population of 5/5. Now, that left now room for representation in the House and in the Senate. Well, white people were lined up for these spots. However, they couldn't get it. Why? Because they didn't live in the district. So, according to the rules of our Constitution, we have now the class of 1870. Class of 1870 consisted of, it started with the one man in the center being appointed, because at that particular time, Congress and senators weren't elected. They were appointed by their district. And then graduating to now the 7 being appointed. Pissed off a whole lot of white people because now they feel like, the former slaves are replacing them in the highest seats of society. And here we go. Also, at that time, the majority of African Americans, or former slaves, were Republicans. Yes, believe it, Republicans. And at that particular time, the average voting during that time period until Lincoln's assassination, Blacks voted 87%. 87% every election, from dog catcher to president, they voted. 87% of the black vote. That's how important the black vote was. 87%. During that time period of 87%, there were groups, as we have now, the progressive Democrats. At that time, the hot group was called the Infusion. Former slaves and Jews now fused together to make one actual party. With 87% of the black vote and the Jewish vote, they were able to accomplish great things. Case in point, Wilmington, North Carolina. Look at this little area. Sprawling, metropolitan. Wilmington, North Carolina was one of the biggest and largest examples or models of progression of the new Union or the Reconstruction. Wilmington, North Carolina produced 4 black millionaires at that particular time period. Well, they were cheated, so they didn't really know that they were millionaires. Not to mention, it was a sprawling, bustling metropolis, which consisted of movie theaters, hotels. The chief crop of Wilmington, North Carolina, as you see here, cotton was king. So all that North Carolina farmland, which was a tribute to a lot of former slaves through the 40-acre and a mule project, now produced a bustling metropolis city and millionaires. If we go to the next slide, we'll see another great example. Well, Tulsa, Oklahoma wasn't actually founded by the 40-acre and a mule project. Tulsa, Oklahoma was founded by an individual who brought his own 40 acres, but using the political party of Infusion, Tulsa, Oklahoma became the next largest mega city. If you look at Tulsa, Oklahoma from the next slide, you will see how big it is. They had 3 movie theaters, 2 airports, 4 black people who owned their own airplanes. It was the Mecca in terms of black education, doctors, lawyers, businessmen. They were all in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Tulsa, Oklahoma would be the equivalent of Wall Street in New York City today. That's why it's so commonly nicknamed the Black Wall Street. So what changed? Well, it's called white pushback. First, we had the massacre in Louisiana, in which white intimidation. Oh, by the way, the massacre in Louisiana started a trend of the corporation of white supremacy. Corporation of white supremacy entailed 2 things. 1, political power, or the ability to change laws, write laws, or anybody who is found in a crime to actually have it ruled not a crime. That's what political power did. Also, political power changed the laws in terms of where you can go, what you can buy, who you can buy from. That was the political power that they needed. But political power was backed up upon this: voter intimidation. They had to get the black vote out so that white people would show up to vote, and they would vote laws against black people. Henceforth, the term critical race theory, or the understanding that the theory of race, or critically understanding the theory of power, race, and oppression, takes a little critical study and analytics. Yet right now, saying CRT or critical race theory is the thing to infuse the quote unquote make America great again people who don't want you to understand how it actually happened, but they want you to go back to that period where America was great, or being white had a great deal more privileges than they have now, and cotton was king, and your poor black behind had to work in the cotton fields. But we're going to move on. So, Louisiana massacre. Not only did they go after the black politicians, but they went after the black voters, the voter booths. They did things like intimidating by a group of people on horses and white hoods, hanging black men up from street poles near voting booths. That is truly voter intimidation. The next slide will show you the actual depiction of the segment and how people felt. The New South. Now, this is just before Jim Crow, because now they have enough political power to vote Jim Crow into existence. Once again, intimidation, threat, force, and political power, keeping and oppressing the black man. If you look at the next slide, you can see the whole might of it. The White League, which controlled the politics, the Ku Klux Klan, which did the enforcing and the intimidation, and the former slaves, now cowering and afraid of their life. If you look at that shield with the slaves in, you see that there is a reading book. Yes, ABCs, ending their hope of education, knowledge, and progress and growth, better known as that was a poke on the Freedmen Society established by Lincoln, where he started to educate black people. Moving on to the next slide. Now, not only did the corporation of white supremacy intimidate black people in their homes, in their voting booths, in their businesses, causing massacres and riots like Wilmington Massacre, the Louisiana Massacre, the Tulsa, Oklahoma, or the Black Wall Street Massacre. It moved into our American civilized society, which led to what was called the caning of Charles Sumner, of the Brooks-Sumner affair. It occurred on May 22nd, 1856. Yes, State Senator Charles Sumner, when representing Preston Brooks, a pro-slavery Democrat, which was really, really common. Pro-slavery Democrat. This is before Democrat became the official party of people of color. Pro-slavery Democrat from South Carolina, right? He opposed them because they were actually talking about, guess what? The Jim Crow rule and the reversion of slavery. So not only were they returning the property back to the former slave owners, they wanted to return the slaves too. So Senator is now debating. And this was before the filibuster. You basically debated your argument and people voted upon yay or nay. So he was winning the actual thing because he was an abolitionist and believed that, and made it a point and got people to actually read the Bible to understand that it was not a God-given right, or it was divine appointment that white people were to be slave masters. But just the simple fact that slavery was an institution in which a person bonded himself for financial gain, which had a timeline. Now, winning that argument, Charles Sumner, the abolitionist from Massachusetts, had enraged the man in which he was arguing with, better known as Senator Brooks. Senator Brooks decided to go up to Charles Sumner and cane him to death. Now, you think the insurrection was the first time that we ever had a disturbance in Washington? No. The corporation of white supremacy has been attacking Washington and standing that block since the actual discovery of race politics. But that's a whole nother show. So after that, Charles Sumner, we move forward to the next slide in understanding of what critical race theory and what it's all about. But we're going to dive into this a little more. And with me today is my co-host, the author of this book of love. This is truly a labor of love, of Black History 365, Dr. Walter Milton. Dr. Milton, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing really, really, really well today. I can't complain, and I'm too afraid to brag.
Okay, so how did I do with the timeline?
You did really well. I was impressed. I started taking notes. I wanted to just have class.
All right. Well,
let's very thorough, and more than anything, I like your passion behind it, and I felt, the heartbeat of your soul as you were talking about this incredible topic, our people, and some of the things that we've gone through, some of the things that we're still going through to this day.
Okay, so let's look at the anger, the white pushback of replacement theory. Blacks were progressing. We were making money. Not only did we have Wilmington, Louisiana, and Oklahoma, but we had somewhere close to 30, 40 different cities in which black people were really making or doing well.
Yeah, I mean, we were thriving metropolises, we were thriving communities. Our dollar went through a number of hands, and I had an opportunity to play golf with a older gentleman today. He's in his 70s, and he made a comment to me that integration was the worst thing that ever happened to us because when our communities lived amongst themselves, they didn't have the high degree of crime that we're faced with, and also the high degree of police brutality, because we were policing our own selves in a way, in terms of, we made it fit and right to live amongst each other without any kind of major disturbances.
Well, historically, we policed our own selves because every time that there was a crime, the white police officer would just take the first black man that he ran into.
Yeah, and one thing that we know, if we look at the historicity of policing, it really came about, this whole notion of making sure that those who were enslaved were were properly watched over. And
Okay, so
police,
they were the former slave catchers.
you can say that as well, absolutely, in many cases.
Mm,
So that's
mm.
where this whole concept came from, and then it just evolved as legislation moved on, and different rights came about, and the goal morphed into this belief in protecting and serving.
Yeah, protecting and serving. They were protecting themselves against us.
Absolutely, and I don't know where that fear comes from, because we haven't done anything um, to any significant degree that I can think of to put police officers into that state of fear that many of them house and try to perpetuate.
But we have put white America, mainstream white America, in a state of fear.
My question is, what's the origins of that? Where is that coming from? I don't think that we've had any type of catastrophic behavior that led to us hurting, large groups of, of whites like we've experienced. And I think that just what happened on Saturday in Buffalo, New York, is one major indication. I mean, we haven't gone, that I can think of, in the recent past in those communities and said that we're going to operate from the construct of black supremacy and killed people,
I don't think that we
innocent.
I don't think that we've ever operated on the guidelines of black supremacy, but we have operated on the guidelines of black excellence.
We have, but even with that said, black excellence doesn't say that we're going to go around and hurt people, innocent people. I think we may have lost Vince for a second, but me
Oh no,
knowing
I'm
him,
still
there we go.
here.
Okay, yeah. So that's how I feel personally about it. That black excellence doesn't mean that we're going to go around and hurt innocent people. You know,
Well, no, I don't think that we've ever been a danger to the white community until I think the actual revolts. I mean, we had the one revolt where this one tribe of former African, I guess at that particular time they were an army, and they took over the oppression of slavery and started killing white people and putting their heads on a pike, just like they would have done in Africa against any enemy. Um, then there was the other massacre or revolt in which it gave white people the fear of the black boogeyman. Ooh.
Yeah. You know, I think, historically, the high degree of degradation that we've faced and experienced is paramount to some of the challenges that we're having today.
Well, here's the establishment that we're having today. The big fear that they have now is not black, or maybe it is. I mean, there is a level of black violence or black aggression. Because if you ever want to have a bunch of cops around, you just pull up a sign that says Black Lives Matter. But, I think bigger than they have in terms of black aggression against white oppression. Remember, black aggression against white oppression. So if we don't have white oppression, you won't have to fear black aggression.
Well, one thing that I admire about the statement black excellence is that we don't give the power to anyone. We accept the responsibility of doing great things and being great amongst ourselves and not really looking for any kind of approval or someone signing off on, our behaviors and our accomplishments, that we begin to do that ourselves. And I think that it's really important because when we give them power, or anyone for that nature, it, 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 they say power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts.
Corrupts, absolutely.
Yeah.
But
So
their fear of black excellence was with, it started, a lot of it, with the infusion in the class of the 1800s, where black excellence got men into Congress, into Senate. And we were heavily 87% voting ratio. We were heavily into politics. We controlled things. Our dog catchers, our district attorney, our senators, our Congress, our district representatives. We control everything in our neighborhood, and we understood the power of the black vote. Yet,
absolutely.
so that fear of black excellence, now that black people are in power and understanding the true meaning of power, which basically means that if I can vote, I can make changes. I can make changes in my favor, and I can make changes that are in your favor to now my favor, brought on a huge white pushback.
Well, I agree and I don't agree, because in our book, BH 365, an inclusive account of American history, we talk about the importance of us understanding that, and Dr. Freeman did research on this, but both political parties, it's a deadly dance for us as Black people. It really is, and I think that we have to understand how politics really works, and it's a business. Politics is a business, and if you have the resources to um, to purchase what you want, you increase the probability to do that. So it's more than just a vote. It also comes with those pillars. And Claude Anderson, he talks about the first pillar that we have to work from. That is that of an economic um, standpoint. If we have the economic piece of it, then we can. And I hate to use this for a better lack of a better term, but we can buy our politicians, and then we go on from there, and we kind of build out, from those two components, economics, politics, and we do that even before we get to education and all of those things.
Okay, well, we're going to take a break, and I'm here with my co-host today, Dr. Walter Milton, editor of this. You see how big this book is? This is a true labor of love. This is Black History 365, and we're talking about the replacement theory in our history. I'm Vincent Squire. See you all. 2 minutes, 2 seconds.
Okay, we're on break.
Doctor!
Yes, sir, Vince.
Okay, so let's talk about that blessing and a curse of black politics.
Well, we're not on yet, are we?
No.
Yeah, I just think that, we almost have to, Vince, I'm almost at the point where we may have to just get a separate state amongst ourselves and begin to build our society from that.
United States of Black America. I think
Man,
so. We're going to go back to the Marcus Garvey.
man, we should have stayed with that because we just are not getting any kind of justice here, man. I'm from that part of the country, Western New York. And for that to have happened, man, it just brings tears to my eyes.
But
That,
they they bankrupt him
yeah,
and changed the FCC rules to imprison him. I mean, come on.
right. Well,
1
I
minute
don't,
warning.
yeah. But anyway, if we could shift on that to give, our people some homage over there, that'll be great.
Okay. All right. Cool. So we're going to come back to the double-edged sword of black politics. And I don't think we have any images, but this is truly what we need. What we had and what we lost was this, the Black Alliance. It was part of Black excellence. It
All right,
was,
you guys ready to come back in?
yeah.
All right. Looks like Dr. Milton stepped away.
So, Dr. Milton, I mean, what's missing is...
All right, going to count down from 5, stopping at 3, live in 5, 4, 3.
Okay, so we're back, and I'm here with my co-host today. It's Wednesday, so you know what that means. It's Dr. Walter Milton, editor, writer, publisher, Black History 365. Buy this book. Most of my research that you saw on today's show came out of this book. So if you want to know a true labor of love in terms of understanding Black history, our ups, our downs, true to the point of being, you were like really brutally honest with our faults, but yet very loving with our success.
Oh yeah. And actually, we have the lower grade levels. Just want to show these. So we have multiple versions.
Okay, well, send Chaz the link and he can start running those through our commercials.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So, and
You
these
got
are a
the
little.
8th grade. All
These
right.
are a little lighter.
All
So
right.
we start in kindergarten and we go all the way through college. But it's important that we begin to really have this information in our homes, in our schools, and we believe, like you said earlier, this is our love letter to the world. And we believe that we can make a deep, lasting impact in the lives of so many people from all walks of life and all ethnicities.
So let's go into the class of 1860. Okay, so we're post-construction. We've got Black senators. We've got Black Congress. Now, one of the most important things in which this group did, including one of my favorite Black politicians, Charlie Small, what they did was they stopped the national anthem and made them change the writing.
Yeah, to me, those things are important, but they're more symbolic than anything. I think that we have to really get down to the root cause as to why do we have to go, not only why do we have to go through the process of getting verbiage changed in the national anthem, but why was the national anthem written in the context rather, that was going to demigod and demigrate groups of people? And I think that that's important, and we have to really look at those symbolic things as if, are they really meaningful, and are they going to change the conditions of many of our lives? Right?
Okay, off the top of my head, immortalizing the efforts of white America and demonizing the efforts of Black America changes the course and outlook and understanding of a racially equal United States. They were basically saying that, it was only through the superiority of the white men that, that flag remained to stand. The song didn't talk about how, how they had these hirelings, because nobody in the Continental White Army trusted other white people. They had white people. They had black people. George Washington was only escorted by black people. He didn't trust the white people.
Right. Dr. Barbara Sizemore says the more that things change, the more that they remain the same. And when you talk about our trustworthiness as a people, we're very loyal. It's almost like Stockholm syndrome. We're very loyal
to our oppressors.
Yes, very much so. Very much so. And sometimes we go, above and beyond the call of duty to just really get that approval or that acceptance.
Okay, so black politics. Now, how did we go from a majority Republican giving homage to Abraham Lincoln and the Republican Party of the Emancipation to now Democrats?
Well, there were deals that were on the table that were broken. And one of the things that we've always demonstrated for the most part is block voting, where a large capacity of us will vote, primarily the same party. When we were loyalists to the Republican Party, that's what we did. But there was a shift early on that really caused many of us to go to the Democratic Party.
World War I?
Yeah, well, there were agreements that were broken. I'll just say that now.
Yeah, well, let's start with 40 acres and a mule.
Oh yeah, that's major. That's major. But there was some deliberation that went on about roles and responsibilies, following through on certain things. And that didn't happen. So the party switch.
The compromise. But where the Republicans caved into the Democrats and removed the federal army, allowing the Klan to continue terrorizing black people.
Absolutely. But going back to Dr. Sizemore's statements, the more things change, the more they remain.
The more they stay the same. Yeah.
Because the Klan now, they're in suits and ties and just everyday clothing. We can't really tell.
Okay, yeah, and we're no longer fighting Jim Crow, but we're fighting Jim Crow Esquire.
Absolutely. You're truly right about that. Yeah.
So, but yet we're still. I heard this statement. My grandfather said this to me, and I think I was like 9 years old. Okay, he said, listen, don't think the Civil War is over. He said, no, there are people who are still trying to win the war against the North and the South. Do you find it to be true?
Well, it's funny that you put this on the floor, because I was just thinking today that, I live in the South now. And, many people in the South, they ingratiate each other. They're very kind, even white and blacks. And you would think that there's a sensitive issues that are bantered back and forth between blacks and whites. But I don't see that. When I go north now, I could really see the black sentiments and some of the the ethnocentric things that are in place that really says that, hey, this stuff is really going on. So I think it kind of switched now, that it's happening. It's more apparent in the north, than the South. Not saying it's not here in the South. I'll never be that unwise to say something. But
I think that the word you may be looking for is naive.
Naive, yeah, exactly, exactly. I said
What?
unwise,
There's no
but naive.
racism in the South? No?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's a lot, but um, I'm just saying that to the degree that one may think has not been the experience uh, for me and many others. And sometimes racism is much more sophisticated too. It's a covert kind of operation. But when I go north, I can just feel, the energy is still off.
Yeah, and they're getting better at hiding their racism,
Yeah.
except for when they tell you to get out your car and handcuff you.
Or, let me buy this house or what have
Well, I'm sorry, he's got another offer at that price. But if you're willing to go up to this price,
you. Absolutely.
or hold on, how about if you're selling your house? Yeah, well, the appraiser saw the picture of you and your black family in this beautiful updated home where everybody else is selling theirs for 1.2 million. We're appraising yours at 800,000.
Right. 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 Yeah. And redlining is still going on in some cases.
Oh,
So,
redlining is heir apparent. But let's
yeah.
let's look at the racism up north in the lower or under $100,000 a year income areas where they have food insecurities, housing insecurities, medical insecurities, education insecurities. They've got insecurities about their insecurities, and especially employment insecurities. And a majority of them are considered to be essential workers.
Yeah. Yeah. It's quite disturbing, Vince, that some of the, I'll say some of the vicissitudes that we experience, it's disconcerting, to say the least, that, we kind of live this manufactured way of life that wasn't designed by us, not even for us, but it's forced upon us, that we have to kind of live to these things. If we go outside of that, we're violating it and it's wrong. But, um, I just think that there has to be a push for
Doc,
us to. Mhm.
Doctor, here is where I find what you said to be very true.
Mm,
And let me add to it. We're in a society which is Eastern European dictated and mandated, which, of course, the Eastern dictation and mandation about society is a knockoff of actual African societies and civilizations. Yet now they're telling the people who the society and civilizations originated from that they're not privy to this society because they don't know the rules. And when we do get to the rules and exert a little black excellence, they change the goalpost.
I agree. I agree. And we have these societal shifts, but at the end of the day, when those societal shifts, especially the ones that are negative, they impact us the most. They really do. They say that when the white community catches a cold, we get pneumonia.
Well, okay. Well, here's a twist of that. When the black community introduce a fad, the white community become millionaires.
Absolutely, absolutely. One of my favorite historians is a gentleman by the name of John Henry Clark. And John Henry Clark says that we have to always be careful who we bring home to dinner.
Mm, yes, which is a knockoff of my favorite philosopher who
Who's that,
says
Ben? Hmm.
who says keep your friends close and your enemies closer.
Hmm.
Machiavelli.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. I can see those things actualized, and also 48 powers, 48
Laws of power.
laws of power
Hmm.
by Green, and but all of those things are elements that was used in those three tactics that I talked about: divide and conquer, victimization, and clear wipe you out genocide.
And we're going to discuss those three tactics in just 2 minutes, 2 seconds. I'm Vincent Squire with Dr. Walter Milton, the author of Black History 365, and we'll be right back.
Okay, we're on commercial.
Doctor, I'm so glad you brought that up. I am so ready to dive into that.
We have to dive into that. I mean, that's a very, very important topic.
Great. So we'll go with 15 minutes on divide, conquer, victimization, and annihilation.
We'll put some ice in there, dude.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know, right? You know,
Talking to my son. Sorry about that.
I know, right? How you gonna get somebody something to drink without
Yeah,
ice? And you in the
yeah,
South? I mean,
yeah. A young commercial break.
yes.
Hey, come over here and say hi to Mr. Squire. Hurry up. Hurry up. I wish you could get him on and start asking him some questions, man. Come on, get over. Just come on.
No, we can get him to call in.
Yeah. Introduce yourself. Hurry up.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, love the hair.
Thank you.
That big smile, man. Your dad just spit out a twin. Look at that.
What do you mean?
My name's Izana. Nice to meet you.
It's a pleasure to meet you. I am so impressed with your father and his work.
Tell
Oh
him
yeah,
to-
thank you. My name means the Ethiopian king.
Yes, I know.
Yes, sir.
All right, take care.
I studied
Yeah.
Swahili. I studied Swahili for a little while,
Oh yeah.
which is a knockoff of just about 7 different African languages.
Yeah, Zana's mom is Ethiopian.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Very
So,
cool.
yeah, so he has it in him.
Good. Excellent. Excellent. Great. Chaz, you ready?
Oh, you want to cut it short?
Bring it in.
All right, give me 1 second here. This commercial's finishing up. All right, going to count you down from 5, stopping at 3, live in 5, 4, 3.
Okay, and welcome back to What You Gotta Say. This is Wednesday, Black History. We're diving in deep. This is real talk. So if you can't handle the truth, change the channel. My co-host today, Dr. Walter Milton. Now, before the break, we talked about the 3 pillars of actually breaking up Black unity.
Yeah, we talked about the 3 pillars of actually building it. And at
Mhm.
the core of those pillars, we have economics first, politics, and that's the foundation. It has to be the foundation because we control our economic outcomes, then we can control the politicians. If we can control the politicians, we can control our businesses, our school systems, all of those things. And I really, hope that we can really, devote one show to this whole thing on segregation versus integration. I know that we touched base on it a little bit before.
It's all
but I think-
yours. Next week.
Yeah. I just think that it's deserving a more discussion because I'm starting to get a lot of feedback from people that I come across with varying opinions on both of those positions.
It was one of our most commented shows.
Yeah. Wow. I didn't know that. Yeah, so I wish we could devote a whole show on it.
So-
the pros and cons, all of that.
So let's look at the division. Divide and conquer. How did they divide and conquer the former slaves from being 78% voting every election to now, barely getting enough to pass?
Well, I don't know if I can speak from an election standpoint,
No,
but I can
historically.
talk about the divide and conquer though.
Okay.
So we know that the Willie Lynch letter was, not literally written by this gentleman, Mr. Lynch, but we know the tenets of the Willie Lynch letter are true. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I find it to
Information.
be in just about every book. Machiavelli, Tolstoy,
Hmm.
yeah, all of the conquerors.
Oh, yeah. And it's so important that we understand, even to this day, these things are still utilized. I
Julius
mean,
Caesar.
right now, I've never seen a time in history that we have so much division between black women and black men.
Really? I never noticed that.
You know, I know the young man that passed about a week and a half ago. There's differing in difference in opinion on some of the things that he would comment about our conditions as black women, and then some of the feedback after his passing just showed that we have to really bring closure to that division that we have, because we can't
Okay.
afford it. And
Okay.
so, and I'm just giving an example of how this whole Willie Lynch
But
process really
okay,
works.
let's dive real briefly into the division between black men and black women. Isn't the big thing that's dividing them is economics, money? Women are considered to be not a corporate threat, so therefore they don't go through anything with assimilation, annihilation, or even wow. Um, I mean, or let me put it to you this way: and this may be a black male perspective, but I don't see black women going through half as much in corporate America as black men.
Well, you may be right, but I think that those are aspects and examples of divide and conquer, because when we have division between our black men and black women,
Black women,
you
yeah,
have the scarcity of black family, or the
true,
potential, because, and that's one of the, if we talk about one of the pillars, our families. When
true.
a household, you know can be led with a mom and a dad, or a dad and a mom, it just increases the probability of great things happening. Not saying that a single parent can't do it, because many of them have proven that. But I'm just talking about it from a propensity level, that it increases the probability of some of the things that our single moms are dealing with, can be lessened, because they shouldn't have to always wear the banner that they have to be strong black women. They could just be women, like anybody else. And I think
Hmm.
us as
Well,
black men, we have a responsibility to really carry the symbol of leadership, that can really contribute, to our community in an effective way.
okay, well, let's look at the Willie Lynch letters and how the slave owners killed black leadership. Once they actually established who was the black leader, they would sell a member of the family, either the father or the children.
Absolutely. And I don't think that, Vince, I don't think that those are flaws in the system.
Oh no, that's
I
design.
think that, there you go. Those are designs of the system. And so
Hmm.
what we have to do, we have to have the ability to break down those structures that have been in place, because they're not even applicable to us, or where we need to go, or where we've been.
Or how
Or
about in the 50s and 60s where unemployment was at like 60%? And the New Deal gave welfare out, but to white families, they were allowed to have the husband stay, but black families, the fathers could not be there.
absolutely, I agree. But going back to it all, it's part of the design. It really is, because when we were amongst ourselves, we had strong black families, and we still have many strong black families that are not getting credit. We still have so many black men.
But we've got strong black families that are predominantly strong on a matriarchal level and not a patriarchal.
True. However, if you look at the latest research, especially around black fatherhood, that we have more Black fathers that are intimately involved in the education process of their children, more Black fathers that spend a large, significant amount of time with their children, more Black fathers that are responsible and they're holding the household down income wise. But we don't always get credit for that. It's this castigation of negativity that's always thrown our way. But what we have to do is not allow those things to define who we really are. We have to. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, in terms of that, don't we let a lot of white media define us?
That's my point. Absolutely. And
Okay.
all of those things, because it seems like with those definitions, the attempt is to have it become self-fulfilling prophecy.
Mm-hmm.
What we have to do, we have to
No, not self-fulfilling, because they want us to fulfill their prophecy of us.
Right, because we become less of a threat that way.
There you go. But I agree.
Walima Shuja said that what we give our kids is too much schooling and too little education. And what we have to do, we have to begin to deconstruct, reconstruct, and construct. That we have to analyze where we are. We have to tear it down, break it apart. Is this applicable for us? Is it going to work? We have to analyze it. Then we have to reconstruct it by building up a new system for us. Some of the things we don't have to do. I mean, we can just accept the fact that we have the ability to almost become sovereign within this nation here. We have the ability, if we collectively said that we're going to buy a large population of land, okay, let's say 2,000 or 3,000 acres, and we're going to begin to build Black communities and Black homes on that land. We can create our own school system. So we have the intelligence, we have the ability, but we also have the economic strata to kind of do this. But the question is, are we willing to move away from the excuses? Are we willing to stop giving white people power to say that you control us and that you own us and you're over us? And say, you know what? We're going to take this thing back. We're going to control ourselves. We're going to be amongst ourselves. We have it. And I believe that we will see once again that not only have we been movers and shakers of civilization from time immemorial, but we also are the movers and shakers of this great nation that we call America.
Well, of course. I mean, we have the power to be movers. We are movers and shakers. We just are kind of like a sleeping giant right now.
Yes, we are.
If it takes the Black vote to win certain areas and states, then why are we not saying, yo, you need our vote, we need this?
But see, we have to control that vote through economics, because people have done a remarkable job coming to our churches, coming to our communities with the same old rhetoric.
Yeah.
And once they get into office, the same old stuff happens. But if we own them economically, we don't allow them to provide the foolishness. And some of our own Black electoral
there we go.
Officials
now you're talking,
destroyed us.
Now you're talking. Now you're talking. Because they are skin folk, don't make them kin folk.
You know, our beloved Claude Anderson said, we have to differentiate Sambos from Uncle Toms.
There we go.
And
keep in mind, Uncle Tom was the hero of the book.
Absolutely. So we got to start giving some of these Black electoral officials the Sambo Awards, like Dr.
Tim Kaine
talks about. Absolutely.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. And what's the other one? I used to love him when he played football, but now he's a Sambo.
Jim Brown.
No, Herschel Walker.
Oh, Herschel Walker. I'm sorry, Jim Brown. Hopefully you don't hear this.
Oh, we talking about Jim. No, we'll be talking about Jim. Look, my mother told my dad, look, if Jim Brown ever crossed that door, bye.
Oh man. Absolutely.
I'm
Absolutely.
I'm sorry for all my family members who watch the show, but you know how our mom was, okay? But
Wow. I'm quite sure that he had a lot of moms with the same type of
I had a lot of
thinking.
aunts who agreed with her, yeah.
Right, right. Wow. That's
But
what.
but yes, we have to now develop because black people of color are so great in terms of creativity and strength, endurance, and the ability to get things done, and the ability to read between the lines to accomplish Herculean tasks. Yet we do not use that to one start more black businesses. But well, because when we do start black businesses, they don't spend their money in our black business, and which we don't have the power to therefore will control over the politicians who can exact laws to help us.
Right.
Not only does the white dollar recycles 15 times to one, okay, in the white neighborhood, but also white political dollars recycles 36 times to one, which basically means white political power means white corporations get these great government contracts and therefore, using it under the minority, because you know who the biggest recipient of government contracts, the biggest minority are white women who white husbands run the company.
Wow. Wow. Well, one of the things that we have to do too is take the words that we say and really combine them with the actions, you
What are
know,
we going to do about
or
it?
or the words that we do and the actions, our actions have to speak our
Uh,
words.
so
You know,
we not only talk the talk, but we got to walk the walk.
we have to walk it.
Well,
But I
generally,
just,
because after one of us get finished talking, that they're shot.
yeah, but all someone has to do is come along and threaten that platform. We would do a 180. I've seen it done. And it's not only in politics, it's in education. We have superintendents that are truly afraid to do what's best for children that look like them because they want to hold on to a job or those types of things.
Well, look about the
And
look at the superintendent in Texas.
which one? You have a thousand, over a thousand.
Well, the black one who was in a white community and they wanted to fire him
Hmm.
because
Wow.
they thought he was bringing in critical race theory.
Oh, you're talking about the principal. There was a principal
Principle, yeah,
here in the DFW.
yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of components to that, and maybe we could frame it offline and talk about it because there's a lot of things that people are not aware of with that situation. But again, the media, um, they have a
Great
they,
spin.
yeah, they can do those things. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
but it's amazing, man. This has been a great show today, as always. This is
So,
one of the
real quick,
highlights of my week.
Dr. Milton, tell people how can they get the book, and
Listen,
I'll be Santa Black.
listen. This book is excellent. Black History 365, an inclusive account of American history, is amazing. Please visit our website, bh365.org. B as in black, history 365.org. If nothing else, visit our website. You'll see how interactive it is. And I think that you will be compelled and you would want to have this incredible book in your home library and with your family.
This
And
is
also the lower grade levels that we have as well.
this. I love Wednesdays because I mean we really dive into some Black history. I mean it's kind of like being at the kitchen table around my father and my uncles who would always talk about Black history. Um, Dr. Milton, I can't thank you enough. One for your labor of
Too,
love,
brother.
two because of your inspiration and love of Black people.
Absolutely.
And the book shows a great deal of that. We talked about nothing new. As Solomon said, there is nothing new under the sun.
Absolutely.
Everything is basically regurgitated. It's reprocessed, it's refashioned into something else, finding a new medium to do the same thing. The replacement theory is nothing new. It's been happening since the emancipation, since Reconstruction, since black men were allowed to be free and to do business, in which they see black excellence and then feel threatened about it. So what do? Destroy it, eliminate it, or anything that they can actually do to take over it. For some of them, they even burnt them down and their communities. We're now in 2020. The techniques that they used in the early 1800s don't work today. As we talked, economic power is one thing, political power is another. And if the black vote counts, then why not make yours count? We're going through primaries right now. Primaries for people who are going to make some decisions which govern our lives. And historically, after the 1800s, we lost that 78% voter ratio, especially during primaries. It's time that we do something new. Let's take a stance now, a stronger look into our government and who's making the decisions for us, and get them to understand that if they need our vote to win, then they need to start making laws in our favor. They need to start changing things, because Make America Great Again means pushing back against things like critical race theory or the 1619 Project, where people understand the true history and the true way of rape, rob, and pillage of an existing race, not to mention oppression of an existing race to keep them down. It's about time that this woke mob and this woke generation start waking up and start teaching our children what is right and what's true. Let's look at the simple fact that Columbus not only sailed the ocean blue in 1492, but he also sailed with a cargo of slaves. Let's now start adding some truth to our history and understanding so that we can stop making the same mistakes. I'm Vincent Squire. If God's will, we'll be back tomorrow with Reverend Dr. former Mayor W. Wilson Good to discuss some political strategies that are taking place in our neighborhood. God bless everyone. Peace.
Okay, we're out.
Doctor!